What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And today we're going to be talking about everybody's favorite New York Giants player, Evan Neal. No, that's not accurate. Everybody's least favorite New York Giants player, Evan Neal, had some insane comments made about New York Giants fans, which he has since apologized for, but the comments were definitely eye-opening. Definitely some interesting takes from Evan Neal. Called us sheeps, called us hamburger flippers, had some choice words for New York Giants fans, was completely disrespectful to those who, in a way, pay his salary by paying for New York Giants game merchandise and all that stuff. So extremely disrespectful comments from Evan Neal. We're going to go ahead and discuss them, discuss his apology as well. We'll read that out for you guys and talk about him apologizing. And I also just want to highlight the difference in Evan Neal's comments on fans and Brian Daboll's comments on fans because they're completely different. Daboll led with respect. Evan Neal lashed out. Huge difference in terms of the leadership in the locker room from the head coach versus the players. And I do think that there is something to be said about the locker room vibes lately because Daniel Jones looks like a broken man in some of these locker room interviews. Evan Neal is taking shots at fans. It's all a mess right now for the New York Giants, as we know, sitting at 1-3, coming off of our third blowout loss of the season. So, not a good time to be a Giants fan necessarily, but we do have, as Giants fans, the ability to rally together and push back at Evan Neal and force an apology out of him, so we should be proud about that. But we're going to go ahead and discuss all these topics, but before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend, and what are your thoughts on Evan Neal's comments and apology?
I mean, just when you think the Giants can't do more stupid shit, they do more dumb things. I mean, it's like there's a bonfire going on, and Evan Neal was like, kerosene, crazy. Why? Why would you dump this much kerosene on an open fire? The fan base was dying for something like this to happen. Every single year, we go crazy. It gets hostile because we suck and we're all frustrated and passionate and pissed off. And then some player decides to pour gasoline on the fire. Now, here's my problem. I would get if it was a player that was actually playing well. Like, if Dexter Lawrence was like, guys, like, stop booing, support us, give us a chance, rally to our, say something. Like, I would be okay with Dexter Lawrence coming out and being like, yo, stop booing us. Like, we want to play well. Like, give us some support, rally the troops. But Evan Neal coming out and saying that really was disheartening. Why? Because what he said was a direct shot at a lot of people, generalized a lot of fans, burger flippers, sheep. What makes him think he's a lion? Like, that's the definition of a lion is a leader, someone that maybe like king of the jungle. I don't freaking know. Evan Neal is one of the worst players on our team right now. In fact, he's probably one of the sheep, if we're being honest with you. So Andrew Thomas is the lion. Evan Neal is the sheep right now. That's how I perceive it. I don't know about you guys. Here's the truth. And I think Don LaGreca's rant was kind of exciting and interesting. And one thing I do agree with what he said. We're going to be here long after Evan Neal is gone, right? We were here before, and we will be here after. Evan Neal will one day be no longer a New York Giant. And at this rate, not only is he not going to be a New York Giant, he's going to be a stain at the right tackle position. And we're going to be wondering to ourselves, what on earth happened there? He's been so level-headed and so composed. It's really sad to see him come out and say stuff like this. But what I will say is I think is rooted in frustration about himself. I think he lashed out at fans because he's frustrated about how he's performed. And I don't even think you could ignore the fact if you're a player and you see what you put on film, led the team last week with 7 pressures, how do you look at the film? How do you come off of game and really sit there and ask and say to yourself, I played well enough in that contest? The Giants are on pace to give up the most sacks in the history of the game. They gave up 11 sacks in week 4 against the Seattle Seahawks pass rush that is ranked, it was ranked a little above average, slightly above average. They're not the 49ers. They're not the Dallas Cowboys. They're okay. They're not great. They're good. They're not 11 sack good. Now, Evan Neal, my friend, I want you to be the best player you could possibly be, but that doesn't mean you get to avoid being criticized. Look, Anthony, how many times have we been criticized for our takes? You know what I mean? We know that we're not always right, but the truth is that we know that the fan base is going to say things like, you're wrong, we don't agree with your opinion, you're bad, you suck. Okay, like it is what it is. It comes with the thing. The only difference between you and I, Anthony, and Evan Neal is that I'm not making $7 million freaking dollars. And if I was making $7 million, I will let you boo in my face. I will let you stand there and boo in my face for $7 million, guaranteed. I don't want to be flipping burgers anymore. I made a nice ribeye last night, by the way. Flipped it. Awesome, fantastic. Flipping form was immaculate. But you know what? I'll tell you right now, I don't want to be doing that forever. I want someone else to be flipping my ribeyes for $7 million a year. But at the end of the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, what have I done to warrant being called a lion? To use a phrase that he probably heard on TikTok, because I've seen that freaking motivational video on TikTok like 1,000 times. A lion doesn't take out the opinion of a sheep. Yeah, I'm like, I wake up every day, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go. But at the end of the day, calling your fan base the guys, like you said, pay your salary sheep, calling the people that support you, want you to be really good in this league, have given you the time to take those developmental steps forward. We're just fed up now, right? Like a sample size of a season in 4 games is enough to say to ourselves, like, okay, this is not getting better, right? We expect to see progress at the very least, but it's not going the way that anyone thought. It's probably Evan Neal specifically. Now, the apology felt forced. It felt like, yeah, like he had no choice. It felt like the Giants went out and said to him, you got to apologize right now, or otherwise you're going to alienate yourself from not only the fan base, but your teammates. Because your teammates right now are asking themselves, you know, we know everyone knows. You can't ignore what you see on the film, Anthony. Like the players are looking at the film and saying, he's getting beat around the edge every single play. He's getting beat on the inside, on the outside. The players, maybe they don't say it, but I guarantee you every single player is watching that film saying to themselves in their own head, that guy can't can't stop a cold. You know what I mean? That guy can't block anyone on Twitter. It's really bad. Like it's really bad. Like the players know. I mean, look at Micah Parsons. He came out and said on my tweet the other day, wow, like, you know, this can't be blamed on Daniel Jones. It was a clip showing every single offensive lineman losing simultaneously. They all lose instantly. Evan Neal blocks Darren Waller in the back, for God's sake. I mean, you know, if you're Micah Parsons and you're saying this can't be blamed on Daniel Jones, who's it blamed on? The offensive line. Other players are saying it. The team is essentially thinking it. They can't be thinking otherwise. The whole fan base sees it. I don't know what to say about him moving forward. I like Evan Neal. I think he's a good dude, and I think that what he said was rooted in frustration about himself, and he's just trying to find a way, and it just boiled over the top. But now you have to ask yourself, like, what is there a way back from that? Like, the only way that he comes back from this is by playing great football. Like, that's all we want. If he plays good football, we will applaud him. We will forget anything that happened. That's the way that we are, right? If he says, like, you guys are sheep, and he has 3 back-to-back fantastic games, you think I'm going to give a shit that he called us burger flippers? No, I want the Giants to win football games. You can call me burger flippers all you want. I just want us to watch winning football. I don't want to sit here on Sunday night. I don't want to sit here on Monday night and be depressed. I don't want to have to go to sleep depressed. I don't want to have to wake up depressed. I'm tired of it. You know what I mean? It's been years of this. So, you know, Anthony, what is your thoughts on Evan Neal, the way forward here? Is there a way for him to salvage himself after this? In my opinion, playing good football is the only answer.
It is the only answer. I mean, the only thing that Evan Neal can do better is be better. Like, the only way that he could fix this is to play good football. I mean, that's all that the Giants fans want. We're booing him because he's playing poorly. I mean, for him to go ahead and disrespect, you know, hardworking people who do their jobs, I mean, at least they're doing their jobs, right? Like these guys who are grinding every single day, you know, working jobs maybe they don't want to work, wish they could be playing a sport for a living, and he's playing the sport for a living, and that's his job, and he's not necessarily doing his job. He's not doing a good job for sure. He's just struggling out there, but because he's a young player who had potential coming out of the draft, he gets paid all this money just to continue to go out there and stink it up for this football team that we want to watch play high quality football. So it's just not fair for him to take shots at hardworking people. Like, it's just, that was the most outrageous moment of this whole shebang. I mean, license plate guy went on a nice rant on Twitter and talked about it and said, you know, listen, I work hard. I spend my money on this team. I spend my money on these games. I just want to see a good performance. Don't come after me for supporting you, right? Because that's all the Giants fans are doing. Yeah, it might be tough love. We might be booing him. We might not be a big fan of him right now, but as soon as he starts playing good football, we're going to be cheering for Evan Neal. We're going to say, damn, we were all wrong. This guy's a beast. I love this guy. I'm so happy he turned it around. You know, it's really just on Evan Neal to turn around this play and start performing better, and Giants fans are going to rally behind him and support him and cheer for him. That's what we all want to see. I mean, even Daniel Jones, for example, like we've all been pretty critical of Daniel Jones this past week, a really poor performance on Monday night. But if he goes out there against Miami and pulls off an upset victory for the Giants on the road and throws 5 touchdown passes, we're all going to be screaming, franchise quarterback, he's elite, I love him, give me my Danny Dimes every Sunday. That's just the way it goes. We're Giants fans, we're passionate. When the team isn't playing well, we let it be known that we're frustrated. When the team is playing well, we let it be known that we are the best team in the NFL and we love our New York Giants. So that's the way it goes. Evan Neal hasn't been here for super long, so maybe he doesn't understand that, but young kid, I'll cut him a little bit of slack, say he's just still trying to grow into this media environment. It's a difficult one to be in as a young player with a lot of expectations, but you got to know better, and you cannot disrespect the fans who are just out there trying to support you and want to see you play some good football. It's really out of line and outrageous, and I want to contrast it with what Brian Daboll said following the game on Monday night. He was asked about visiting fans kind of overwhelming home fans in the stadium, Giants fans not really showing up or leaving halfway through the game because the team is so bad, booing. And Brian Daboll had this to say. He said, quote, "I'd be upset too if I was a fan. There's a lot of things we've got to do better, and that's what we'll try to do," end quote. And that's the best way to put it. Brian Daboll empathizing with the fans, saying, I would be upset too. That's what we would like to hear Evan Neal say. Evan Neal shouldn't be saying, what does it matter what they say? They flip burgers, they're sheep. No, Evan Neal say, yeah, they're frustrated and so am I. I am very frustrated with the way that I'm playing and I need to be better. That's what we want to hear from Evan Neal. If Evan Neal said that, we'd say, all right, Evan Neal, kudos to you, but be better. Don't just say it, talk is cheap, go put it on the field. And that's what we're going to say to Brian Daboll as well. We all love Brian Daboll, we all respect Brian Daboll and believe in him, but he said there's a lot of things we got to do better, and that's what we'll try to do. All right, well, talk is cheap, Brian Daboll. I want to see this team improve. Go out there and be better. You say that you're going to be better. I need to see you be better because I need my New York Giants to play good football, right? So that's really the crux of it. You talk about being upset as a fan. Fans are supposed to get upset. That's what this whole thing is. It's an entertainment industry. It's not just a sport industry. This is entertainment, and fans getting into it, being excited and being upset, that's part of it. And at the end of the day, these coaches, these players, the fans really do decide who gets paid, who gets cut, who gets signed. It's really up to the fans because they're trying to put the best product on the field for the fans. And Brian Daboll understands that. And I can respect and appreciate the quote from Brian Daboll where he made it known that he does understand that. And he sympathizes or empathizes with the fans who are upset. And he's going to try and do better for the fans. That's the kind of stuff that we appreciate. Those are the quotes that we love to hear that make us feel proud to be a New York Giants fan. The quote from Evan Neal does the exact opposite. That just frustrates us and makes us angry. But, Brian Daboll gets it, and I still do believe in Brian Daboll, and I think he's going to try his best to turn this team around. But, Alex, like you asked, is there any salvaging Evan Neal's relationship with New York Giants fans? I still think there is. I mean, this definitely puts a massive stain on it. This is going to make it really difficult. But let's say the second half of the season, he turns it around, doesn't let up a single sack in the final 8 games. We'll say, okay, year 3, let's see what Evan Neal's got. We will still rally behind this guy and show some sort of support and belief. At least I will. I mean, if he has a dominant second half of the season, if the Giants somehow sneak their way to the playoffs at the end of the year and Evan Neal plays well, yeah, of course I'm going to say, let's see it in week 3. Now, I know I'm being a dreamer here. This is a pipe dream. I'm being an optimist. I don't think any of these things are going to happen, but if they do, that Giants fans will rally behind Evan Neal, show him some support, and say, kudos to you, you turned it around, you played better. But if he continues to stink the way that he has stunk so badly, we're not going to rally behind him. It's really just about how you perform on the field. Again, Brian Daboll gets it. Eli Manning always understood it. Michael Strahan always understood it. But guys like Evan Neal, like Eric Flowers, who end up getting frustrated, lashing out at reporters and fans and teammates, Eli Apple, Landon Collins lashing out at teammates, these guys don't last in New York. They get shipped out pretty quickly, and they go and they try and start a new career elsewhere, and oftentimes it doesn't really work out. Even with OBJ, you can mention him because when he did that Lil Wayne interview with Josina Anderson, he kind of took a shot at Eli Manning, and then immediately after that, he was silenced by the team. He was shipped out the next offseason, and his career, it hasn't been the same. That's the bluntest way I can put it. His career has not been the same. So you do those things in New York, you find your way out of New York real quick, and then good luck making a second career out in Cleveland or any of these other teams that they're going to ship you out to or cut you and you sign with. So it's really important for these players to understand there's a way to do it, a way to navigate it, and this isn't the way. And so I just think with Brian Daboll, at least he understands it. I don't think that he gets fired by the end of the season. Like I've said a few times, even if the Giants don't win another game this year, Brian Daboll's safe in my mind. But you look at the way that certain players respond to the media, some of them handle it well and they become legends in New York, right? Like Eli Manning is a legend. He can walk into any restaurant in New York City and get a free steak. Like he can get whatever he wants because he's a New York legend. And when you look at guys like Evan Neal who criticize the fans, you'll never become that no matter what. So it's a real change in mindset that Evan Neal's going to need, Alex. And I know that you shook your head, kind of laughed when I said that if Evan Neal turns it around, we'll rally behind him. Maybe you disagree, but I do think there's some truth to it. Like if Evan Neal becomes a good player, we'll be happy, right, at the end of the day. But right now, what we're seeing is not good enough, and we just need this New York Giants football team to be better.
Look, I don't think that Evan Neal is going to turn things around and have a great second half of the year. I mean, or even for still in the first half of the year. But I'll say this, like you said, players that talk shit to the fans do not last in New York, and that's objectively true. I actually do have faith in Brian Daboll, and I have faith in Joe Shane. I'm not willing to give up on that just yet. And keep in mind, this team is still a rebuilding team. We're still dealing with a lot of leftovers from Dave Gettleman, guys. I mean, Adoree Jackson, $19 million cap hit, not carrying his weight. Leonard Williams, $32 million cap hit, not carrying his weight. You look at some of the pieces on this team, we're still trying. I mean, even Daniel Jones, like he's a leftover from the Dave Gettleman era. There's a lot of pieces on this team that aren't Joe Shane's, and we had no choice but to stick with them because look, Daniel Jones coming off a season where he made a playoff run, he won a playoff game. If they didn't extend him, think about what would have happened. Think about the lack of faith suddenly in the fan base because the alternatives were nothing. There was nobody else. There was no other options. Joe Shane has done the best he could to rebuild this team with minimal resources. And I'll say this right now. I mean, I wouldn't say minimal resources. He's had two drafts to get things in a better spot. But I'll add this, right? The cap space, guys, our salary cap situation is the best it's been since I've been watching this team in using our analysis to kind of gauge whether or not we're in a healthy spot. Our salary cap situation is the best it's been in years, well before Dave Gettleman, well before Jerry Reese's spending spree at the end. This is the best our cap space has been in years. So at the very least, there are some positive things that we do have in our favor. I'll add on to that. The drafts. This year's draft, I think, is actually going to be one of our best in a long time. Jalen Hyatt is a legit talent. We just can't let him get down the field because our offensive line is so bad. Deontay Banks is a legit talent. John Michael Schmitz is a legit talent. Trey Hawkins can be a legit talent. Micah McFadden last year, he's going to be a good player for us for a while. I like Micah McFadden. My opinion, he's changed my opinion about him. And for what it's worth, that is what good players do. Micah McFadden got a lot of shit after the first 2 weeks of the season. Did he talk to the fans about how they're sheep and burger flippers? No, he didn't. He said, I have to clean up my tackles. I got to get better. And what did he do? He came out the next week and he kicked ass. And he came out this past weekend and he kicked ass. That's what good players do. That's what players in New York, those are the ones that stick around. Micah McFadden, you're sticking around, buddy, because you went out and proved it with your action and didn't just say shit. That's the truth. Players that go out and prove their words and transition it into action are what keeps you in New York, not going out and saying crap and then sucking the next week anyway. That's the truth. So, when you're looking at what the Giants have done, we have a couple of nice building blocks here. You have Dexter Lawrence signed long-term. You got Andrew Thomas signed long-term. You have JMS, a rookie at center. You got Ben Bredesen, who's been moving around the offensive line like musical chairs because we have no one healthy. We're still trying to round out the depth in the offensive line because we haven't had much time to develop him. Josh Azudu is a fine player. He's just he's a first-year playing tackle in the NFL. It's impossible. It's a losing job for him. It's a lose-lose situation for him. So it's unfortunate. I feel as though Bobby Okereke is a solid player, still learning Wink Martindale's system. I think once he wraps up his, kind of improves his tackling a bit, he's going to be a really solid player for us for a while. I do still like Bobby Okereke. I still see the upside in him. Offensively, Wan'Dale is a stud. That's our second-round pick last year. I really like Wan'Dale Robinson. Daniel Bellinger, stud. Fourth, fifth-round pick last year? Good player. I think that we've actually made some good decisions here, but think about what we did this offseason. A lot of the signings we made, Paris Campbell, A'Shawn Robinson, one and done deals. A lot of them. Darren Waller, they're going to take the out on his contract after this year. Seeing the way that we've utilized him or lack thereof, there's no reason to bring back Darren Waller after this season. You cut him, you save the money, you roll it over somewhere else. That's my personal opinion at this point in time. I just don't see how you go about justifying his extension if you can't even leverage him? You know what I mean? If you can't use him, why pay him? Maybe you go out and draft another receiver, depending on how the draft shakes out. Maybe you're in range for Marvin Harrison Jr. Who knows? Maybe that's something the Giants would consider. It's possible at this point in time, dude. I mean, if we're not going after a quarterback, we're going after the top playmaker in football. That's probably in the draft. That's probably where we end up sitting. So, you look at the Panthers right now. They're trying to trade for a top receiver. Could be Higgins, could be Devontae Adams, could be somebody. Teams are trying to make moves. Obviously, their first-round pick is the Bears right now. We just have to pray to God that the Bears don't get 1 and 2 because they're going to get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., and we're going to be in a world of hurt for a long time in Chicago. They're going to have a really good duo there. But the Giants right now are headed toward a top 10 pick, which is not unusual for us at all. We're used to this. But I'll tell you what. If I am the Giants right now, what are you fighting for? What is Brian Daboll trying to do on this offensive side? I think, look, the defense hasn't been altogether that bad at times. I actually don't think, aside from the missed tackles, I think that they've been okay. They're just on the field a lot. The Giants are just never maintaining drives and sustaining moments. And when they do make good drives, they turn it over into pick sixes and they fumble and they do stupid shit. Like it's just it's insane to watch. Like, wow, they're marching down the field. They're going to score a touchdown. Pick six the other way. It's like, oh my God, right at the final moment, we can't close. It sucks to watch, but I do have to shout some respect out to the players that are taking responsibility and then showing improvement on a week-to-week basis. Guys like JMS, or guys like Micah McFadden, guys like Deontay Banks. They're staying quiet, they're doing their job, and if they are talking, they're indicating how much they have to improve. And they've struggled too. It's not like they've been like really good players. They're getting better, and they're transitioning words into actual action. Evan Neal has just taken the wrong path there. And I feel like right now, the only way back is shutting us up with good play. Otherwise, he's going to keep getting stuff. We're going to keep posting the clips. We're going to keep posting him getting beat. It's our job. That's what we do. We analyze this team. We look at the team. We watch the clips. We see what players are doing. That's what we love to do. It really gives us an insight into what they're doing. We want to be clipping Evan Neal freaking stonewalling Montez Sweat. We want to be, watching him dominate and posting the clips of him having great reps like we did with Andrew Thomas, Anthony. I know you recall. Wow. I posted so many clips of Andrew Thomas taking a big step forward in the second year. I remember. Third year, even better. I want to do the same thing for Evan Neal, but I can't because every single time I clip it, he's there getting beat off the edge. Like, I don't know what to say. It's there on television. You can't ignore it. It's just tough, man. I don't know. I don't really know what to say about him anymore. I really just think the only way back for him is playing well. But if he keeps compounding bad performances, it's going to get ugly. And at some point, the Giants have to consider making a switch at right tackle and just save him from himself. Because at the end of the day, if he's not going to pan out there, you have to give him a chance to succeed elsewhere. You can't do what you did to Eric Flowers. You can't keep him in a spot where he's never going to grow. He's never going to be good. You have to move him to guard. You have to get him involved at right guard at some point. I think that might be the end of the day what the Giants do, because that might be the only way to salvage his career in New York.
I think you might be right, and it's not like it's a story unfamiliar to us. We saw it with Eric Flowers. He was a first-round draft pick. The Giants had a lot of high expectations for him, wanted him to develop into a great offensive tackle. He always struggled. It never happened. He leaves New York, goes to Miami, turns into a solid guard, goes to Washington, continues to play guard at a solid level. Sometimes tackles just move into guard. I know the argument is he's too big, right? Evan Neal is like way too tall, way too big to play guard. Sometimes it works. Eric Flowers was also a ginormous human being. He moved into guard, and he ended up making a decent second half of his career there. I don't think he's in the league now, and I don't think he's a good player anymore, but he did find some success moving into guard. He just did it way too late. And I think with the Giants, you want to get ahead of it, right? You don't want to have to wait until he goes to another team to turn into a decent player playing guard. If you're the Giants, you want to see if Evan Neal could turn into a good guard for you. So at some point in the season, I'd like to see them experiment with it. Again, Alex, we said this a couple weeks ago, whether they experiment with it on game days or they just do it behind the scenes at practice just to see if it's something he's capable of. We know that it is because he played guard during college. In fact, I believe the majority of his collegiate snaps were actually played at the guard spot. So I'd like to see them give it a try, maybe it's something there. Maybe there's something from college that he did really well at the guard spot that's not transitioning to the tackle spot, and he can give it a try and hopefully turn his career around. That's what we would love to see. I want to see Evan Neal turn his career around to become a good player. And for what it's worth, prior to the draft, there were some analysts who said maybe at the next level he can be a decent tackle, but I believe he can be an all-pro guard. So if you think he can be an all-pro guard, you got to weigh the value. Do you think he could be a good guard at this point versus a bad tackle? You got to know that taking the good guard at the end of the day is the move there. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do with Evan Neal. They need to figure out a way to turn his career around. He needs to figure out a way to turn his career around. But of course, the spotlight's going to be shining bright on him, especially now after these comments. We need to see him improve his play, and he just put a massive target on his back. Not that there wasn't already a massive target on his back, but he just made it even larger. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds now. It'll be interesting to see how the Giants respond after this tumultuous week with a lot of media crap storms and everything else. But again, like I said, I am still confident in Brian Daboll. You make a great point in saying this team is still technically rebuilding. So let's see how they continue to build over the next portion of this season. And maybe they finish strong and they give us some hope going into the offseason and some stuff to build on. We find some new talents and we pack it up and we go back to next season, hopefully hit the ground running. But I'm still not giving up on this season just yet, Alex. I'm still going to provide a little bit of optimism. I still think it's early. We're only 4 weeks in, 1/4 of the way through the season. If the Giants pull off 2 upset wins, gain some momentum, they can get themselves back in this race. It is possible. It's very unlikely. No, I don't actually believe it'll happen, but a part of me does. It is possible, and I'm going to hope to see my New York Giants turn it around. And of course, we're going to be hyped on this channel when they turn it around. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode and subscribe to the channel. If you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.